Hi. So sorry about the earlier incidents about the Blackboard. So the Blackboard collab couldn't go through because the network was really bad. So last week we discussed the introduction of SQL. If you were not in class, the whole discussion centered around the difference between SQL and programming languages. So the main thing you should understand, this is just a refresher, is that your SQL is a language that is used to manipulate data. So the difference between it and other programming languages is that it's specific to data creation, manipulation, or even management in itself, unlike some other programming languages that are for front-end development or back-end development for some other things. Then you have your SQL also cannot be used to create applications. So you can't use SQL to replace a front-end development um, language like your C Sharp or your Java. So it's used at the back end for data only, and SQL cannot directly communicate with your HTML. Rather, you have your side scripts, PHP, which will be the intermediary. So that was what it was all about. So going further, we discussed a whole lot of things, but with more focus on how to create our first database and a table. So we'll continue from where we stopped last week. So I'm going to open my workbench. So while that is loading, I want you to know that I've contacted the IT guys, and they've told me the issue with the server. So I'm going to open and we're going to deal with the password to the server, the access, and all that. So I don't want to open some things online because this is going to be online, so I don't want to expose my password. So I'm going to click on local instance for SQL. So this shows that my workbench is connected to my SQL server. So I'm going to double click this. So this will prompt you to input your password. So I'm going to input my password. So today, if you were not in class last week, part of the things we talked about was creating tables. And at first, we're just going to create a database for human resources, HR, and some tables will also exist in there. So I have in here some tables that would go into our database for HR. This is to get you comfortable with creating databases and tables, and also would work with data types, commands, comments, and some other things. So we'll start step by step. So in this database called HR for human resources, we'll have a table called employees, another one called departments, jobs, job grades, job history, regions and country, then locations. So please follow me as I go through with this. And if you don't have access to if you don't have your server installed, or you don't have direct access to use these things, when you get back to the lab, we can always try this. So in order to create a database, you start with the keyword create database. Then we use the keyword HR. So I'm going to create this using a small letter. Then you click on this thunderbolt that says execute the statement. So if your SQL script has been executed, you'll have the green tick on the left, on just below. And in order to see our database, because it will reflect on the top right corner here, click refresh and you can see we have a database. If you click on it, we don't have tables defined yet. So going down, we're gonna use type in the keyword use HR. So what we're saying here is we want to use the database called HR and we want to put tables in it. So we say use HR, it's executed. So it's like opening a door to a room and saying we want to use this room, we want to put tables in there. So we say create table employees. So please note something. Your commands in themselves, leave them in cap locks. You can put them in lower cases, but it's better this way so that you'll be able to identify which are the scripts and which are actual declaration by yourself. So the employees table will have a primary key called employee ID. The data type will be integer, and we want to say that this particular field should be not left empty, not null, so it can't be left empty. So on the next level, so I'm going to try to check what I want to have in my table, employees table. First name, last name, email. Okay. So next we have first name. So it depends on what you want your naming convention to be. The data type is varchar. This is because some names have characters in them, like French names, German names. So first name shouldn't be longer than 25 letters. Anything beyond can be an anomaly, I mean, and that can happen to anyone. So last name also put it at 25, not null. So these ones will be required from people. Email will also be in the same field. So email can be made important or not. So next, I'm just trying to check phone number, hire date, job ID. So for your phone number also, we'll leave it as varchar because, as you know, some phone numbers, some people put the plus sign with their phone numbers. So even if we don't make the email important, we can make the phone number important. Hire date. So the date that this individual was hired should be put in here. So we'll use the keyword date. And what else should be in here? I'm sorry for scrolling between. We need the job ID, salary, manager, department ID. Okay. So the job ID would mean this is a foreign key from another table. So just leave it as int. The next is salary. So the salary will be in decimal place. Remember, your money can never be as a whole number. So it's in a decimal place. Okay? So please take notes. We have salary, we have manager ID, that is if the staff is a manager, and department ID. So this is also a secondary key from another table. Leave it as int. Go to the next line, department. So each staff belongs to a department. Int. Then on the last line, we'll declare the primary key of the table. Primary key, PK, into brackets, employee ID, which should be unique to every employee. So we close our first bracket after this and put a semicolon. Okay, so execute.